Welcome to episode 6, everyone, of the Divots and Pivots show. We got the Honda Classic this week. We're starting the Florida swing. We're back to the East Coast. Nice warm weather. It feels great up here in the New Hampshire area today, and I can't wait, even though we have a snowstorm coming Friday, which I'm not thrilled about. But anyways, we got big announcement today. We got the Honda Classic DFS, and we got some stories for you. So you may have noticed it already in the intro, the big announcement. Mr. Copeland is here to stay. Welcome, the new co-host of the Divots and Pivots show. Bud, what's going on today?
Keeping it real one day at a time. Feels incredible. I like the sound of that. Thank you to you, Fantasy National, Belly Up Sports. Real quick, Fantasy National. So that was not a phantom email that you got. I didn't do my homework last week. I was supposed to reach out sooner. You got an email from this Bud's for you in your inbox. If you'd holler at me, let's connect. I'd love to rekindle our friendship. Andrew, it's wonderful. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I got my window open today, and it feels fantastic. Get some fresh air in this room today. I'm excited to have at least one nice day before the snow comes, because I'm not looking forward to, typical New England fashion up here. One day I hear we're supposed to get a foot, and then I look at the news last night, and they're saying 1 to 2. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. But either way, I know it's not going to feel like today, so I'm going to enjoy today while it's today.
Well, quick question for you on that. What's more accurate, their weather predictions or your picks this week? I think that should be a prop bet right there. What's more likely to hit, the weather on Friday, those predictions today, or our picks? I'm gonna keep track of that. We're gonna have the I team on that and follow up.
I'm gonna say our picks, because if you listen to last week's episode, you won some money. I think Young came through with the big sheet play of the week. I got to clip that. I want to make a promo of that because we were here for you. And actually, most of our picks did hit. We had a couple flops, but that's part of the game. That's DFS for you. But shout out to Chad. We rode his ride. We played Patrick Reed, or was it always played Patrick Reed? The APPR league. He did not come through for us, but that's okay because Chad hit us with a bunch of other fire picks that came through, and I think we all won money last week. So shout out to Chad there. APPR will hit again.
Shout out to Chad and whatever fantasy podcast. I can't remember the name of this podcast, but
it was actually just called the Fantasy Golf Podcast. So
there you go. Shout out Chad, because I paid attention for the first time. He made me a believer, and between talking to you and talking to Chad, I'm starting to step back into the DFS world. That was why I reached out to Fantasy National. But you're talking about this weather that's coming. Ironically enough, we're back in the Florida coast. I'm a Florida boy, grew up North Florida. I grew up playing TPC Sawgrass and a bunch of other tracks in the area, fortunately. So they're back in Florida, but you're right. We're supposed to get, I think, a foot, maybe a foot and a half here. And my buddies are like, don't you hate it? I don't hate it yet. I'm born again New England. So I've only been up here a couple of years. So I am looking forward to the snow on Friday. But what I'm not looking forward to, and this is one of the downsides to moving back east, is I liked the primetime golf. I was a huge fan of seeing live golf at 6, 7, 8 o'clock. I put the kid down for bed. The roommate's doing her thing in the kitchen or in the living room, and I'm able to get to a little bit, maybe 20, 30 minutes of live golf. It's wonderful.
Yeah, when you get to watch it live, it's a different feeling than just, watching the scoreboard on your phone or whatever. Look, for golf fans like us, watching the swings, watching the play, it does mean something to us. I know a lot of people have a hard time watching golf, but I can sit there all day and do it. I love it.
By the way, my quote unquote roommate / wife heard that comment in the other room, and I'm glad that the background noise modifier thing is on, because she's laughing. It's not. I wish I was as smooth as I come across.
Don't be laughing at me, roommate.
Right. And actually, you know what? I can't even say it. The roommate thing is a shout out to Shay and Irving from the Dan Patrick Show. I think Shay and Irving's on Twitter too. But he's a shall we say salty gentleman who's a Cowboys fan. Which, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're gonna be salty anyways for a while, I guess. But he refers to his wife as roommate, and I found it funny because, God, the irony of the truth that's the opposite in this house.
That's actually really funny, because I was on a dating site the other day, and I flipped through, and one of the first things that someone said was we'll get along if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, and I just X. So peace out.
Listen, I mean, if I took my hat off, which I will eventually at some point, you'll see my hairline and my true age will show. But if I had to date today, I don't know what I would do. I mean, and we're not here to talk about, this is not a dating show yet. But I was thinking about that the other day. A buddy of mine had ran into a dating situation. I thought to myself, like, good God, I'm so happily married. Happily married. I'm so happily married right now. And like, I got to a relationship right before the dating went online. So, kudos to the warriors out there.
I'm terrified.
Oh God. So, but thank you again for having me on. I look forward to joining everybody. Tiki Live every Wednesday, 10 a.m. We're going to be coming at you. We're going to be bringing you things that you should listen to, things you shouldn't listen to. But mostly things you should listen to. Sorry, I derped out there for a second. Wonder, you said Tommy Fleetwood before we got on. Like, we tried not to talk too much before, but you said Tommy Fleetwood, and I don't want to get ahead of us there because we haven't even.
No, let's roll with it. That's how we do.
Do you want to? Let's just start with the 9,000s real quick, and then we can go back to the top tier. We'll get. Because I think a couple weeks ago we were with what's her face? I had a meeting with them. Caitlin Moyer. Shout out Stick and Hack and Caitlin Moyer. But when we were talking to her, I don't even think we got to our DFS picks that week. But that's because
we didn't. We just kind of roll it. We were talking caddies. We were talking baseball. That's you know what? I loved the show, but we were all over the place. But you know what? Sometimes that's how we're going to be here. We're just going to have a good time.
All right. So let's talk Tommy Fleetwood.
Because
you brought it up, and first of all, trying to look at the European Tour or hashtag DP World Tour, and the results, the way they post them. I can't read European dates like they do month and day and year differently. so I'm just trying to find out what's he done in 2022 lately. I mean, he's got a cut T12, T7. T7 was a year ago. Geez, was it T12, T48? But you mentioned he does well down in PGA National.
Yeah.
So does he do well enough for you to play him at 9,900? Because he doesn't. I just don't know. I haven't seen him. I don't know if I can take a stab at that.
Yeah. So I haven't seen him yet this year because I, just don't have the time to also watch the European Tour. But he played in 2020 and 2018 were the last two times he played here, and he's got a top 5 finish in both those. He finished 3rd and 4th solo. So I mean, he's got the resume here. He typically gains 25 strokes at this course in this tournament. So there's definitely a course that he likes. He falls the top 10 in 4 of my 5 key stats for this week, including DK points, which means he's birdieing. He's getting you points. That's something you're going to need. And let me check what his ownership was really fast, because that'll be another big key. So at 11% projected ownership, that'll probably rise to about 13%. At 9,900, he's not a bet. If you're gonna play multiple lineups like me, I'm gonna have a couple lineups where I'm starting with Tommy Fleetwood and I'm going down from there. It's gonna be more my balanced lineups where I'm not playing the top tier, top price guys. And that's not a bet. If you're gonna play one lineup and you're looking to do some, ignore the 10, 11K range, Fleetwood's not a bad guy to mix in there, just given his history.
So you're saying if you're not going studs and duds, which by the way, nobody playing on the PGA Tour is a dud, but just for the rhyming of it, if you're not doing that, you're going to anchor with Tommy Fleetwood at 9,900, which is basically 10,000. Which at 10,000, would you take him? For $100 more, would you take him?
If I'm starting with him and he's my highest one, yeah, I'd probably take him for $100 more, because I think there's enough value this week where you can afford that extra $100. I think there's some good value in the 7K and lower 8K range this week.
And so
a little teaser, we'll get to someone who is all the way down at min price around 6,200. We'll get to him later, but
you're on 6,200. You're going to go ahead and just. I like how confident you said that. Normally 6,200, you're plugging in holes. So in the 9,000 range, though, it feels like good job again, gentlemen and ladies at DraftKings, because I don't want to take any of them, and I want to take all of them, right? Like, I can make arguments for all of them, but like you said, or we said before, Billy Horschel is going to be chalky, but because he's back in Florida kid, Florida swing. Matty Wolff is. That was a name I was actually kind of surprised to see up there. I haven't heard his name a lot elsewhere. I don't really know how he's doing. I don't know what his form is like. But I also think that they know something we don't. Maybe this course does set up well for people who can just hit iron shots left and right. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think for the record, if anybody's going like, what the hell, bud? I don't have to have a lineup yet this week. I'm technically still in another league that is just basically you pick the winner. It's 4 tiers. You pick 4, you get your points. But I'm coming back into the fold. So next week, Andrew's going to hold my feet to the fire and actually make me make some picks and be a big boy and join the game. So, but I think
we can ease you into it. We can even next week we can talk about how to make a tier style lineup, because that's a fun way too. Because then you're only comparing one golfer to like 5 others, and that brings in a whole different strategy.
I saw that, and if we were saying one of those was, what's the word I'm looking for? Training wheels for DFS. Which one would be training wheels, and which one would be like the next step up? Like, should I be starting with a tiered lineup before I start going with trying to pick 6 that make the cut?
It's the way I started, because it helped me kind of hone in my research style, because like I said, there's only like 6 guys per tier or something like that. I think some of the lower tiers got more than that, but you're not having to research the entire field. You're just having to research each tier, the guys in each tier against themselves. So you can really, you're not spending, hours researching the entire field. You can hone in on a few guys, and you just have to hone in on comparing them to each other at that point, because there's no price point, there's no salaries. It's just tier for tier. And it just brings in a whole different strategy. So I think it's a nice way to dip. That's how I started it. I don't play NBA DFS anymore, but that's how I started. And when NBA DFS, I found it a lot easier than the full lineup.
I'm going to follow you into the fire here, my friend, and that's where I'm going to start, because so next week, there's your teaser for next week. We're gonna you're gonna join this journey with Boudreaux as he comes back into the DFS world, holding
Perfect.
Andrew's hand and following his light. We're going to start off with the tiers, because when I do look at this, it is, it's interesting when you have to pick it apart and build a lineup like that, and it can be overwhelming. And sometimes, like you said, maybe just the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. So what are you alluded to? We're at the 9,000 range. Tommy Fleetwood seems to be the house. I'm not going to say favorite. That's not the word I'm going to use. It's not like we're picking him to win. We're comfortable with that at that price to kind of anchor our not studs and duds, our average Joes.
The balance, we'll just call it the balance.
There you go. Balanced lineups.
The hair that don't care is there to stay.
Is there anything that starts with 10 or 11 that intrigues you? We had our friend Chad last week saying he doesn't go top tier. Avoid the top tier. There's no use. You're not going to ever get that kind of value up there that you think you will, because it's much more of a holistic approach. So you at the top tier, what say you, Obi-Wan?
Yeah, I mean, I typically avoid the top tier too. Like I said, I'm playing multiple lineups, so I'm going to have some that includes some up there just because that's smart when you're playing multiple lineups. But if I was just playing 1 or 2 lineups, I'm probably going to ignore this range. Look, it doesn't mean these guys are going to do bad. Sungjae Im is set up well for this course. He's in good form, and he does well here in the past, so he should do good. But $11,000, that's a hefty price tag, and he's probably still going to be fairly highly owned. So that's going to be 2 strikes again. He's still projected to be like 18% owned. So 18% owned at $11,000, with what that means for the rest of your lineup, you have 0 edge. That is basically a nothing play for you that's going to cancel out no matter what he does, good or bad. So it serves you no good to play him that high when you can save money on somebody. Like if you were going to play someone up here, I'd rather save $400 and play Joaquin Niemann instead. Niemann ranks out as number 1 in my model this week, and I really like him this week. And he's coming off a win. I typically don't play the guys who won the week before, but
that was gonna be my question: is where do you factor in again my stretch gain off the course or whatever? Because I think about Phil after the PGA. We will get into Phil later. Don't worry. We're not going to ignore the lefty in the room. But you think about Phil last year after he won the PGA, and he was out shoots like 73 or 75 in the first round, and he's like, yeah, whatever. He's like, but did you hear I won the PGA? That's why I am one of those. I think Moneyball should be the foundation of any kind of analysis. I think if you're starting an analysis without data, it's flawed from a structure. So, but I also think that once you start getting into, okay, cool. Like they've already done the analysis for us. They tell us who's favored up there. This is where you kind of come in. Like, I don't know. If I knew the guy, I would ask, but like, they are pros, but he just cashed a $2 million check and got, he's the it guy of the West Coast swing. He had all those first-time winners, and then the story with Sergio waiting for him. I mean, the players obviously love this guy. How many folks were just hanging around, and the love that he got on Twitter. The wire to wire with the Charlie Sifford tie in there. It's a really romantic story. I just think it's one of those things emotionally you come out and this beast of a course, literally the bear trap.
Mhm.
That said, I'm also partial to your the argument there, which is if form's so important, who's in better form?
Well,
Right?
yeah, and that's
the guy who just won. Yeah, the guy who just won, or exactly.
Well, and he's been and what it is too is he's been so far particular about the tournaments he's played this year, where he's playing the tournaments where he knows he can go good. In the past 5 tournaments, the only other tournament he played besides winning the Genesis last week was the Farmers, where he finished 6th. So this early on in the season, he's playing particular courses that he's comfortable with, and the key stats, like he just ranks out so well. So far this year, and just on correlating courses as well. So he has an all right history here, but this is strictly, I'm not going like overweight on Joaquin Niemann here. I'm saying if we're going to play anybody up in this range.
Truth gun to your head. Who do you take?
Yeah, he's going to be the only one that I play above $10,000 most likely. And the main reason for that is because he's right now only projected at 10% ownership. And for someone who just won the week before, compared to Sungjae Im, $400 more, who's coming in projected at maybe 20 plus ownership. He's at 18 right now, and that might go up more. Like, that's just outrageous to me. I'd much rather play Niemann.
I mean, down there. Sungjae with averaging 92 points, though, is that why everybody's like, all right, you know what? He might be owned, but it's one of those things. If everybody, it's kind of like it's the chalk that you have to swallow because everybody else is going to, so they're already going to be starting with that base. So,
but you know who's averaging more DK points? Niemann.
Holler at your boy.
Niemann is averaging so far this year. Sungjae Im is ranked 7th in DK points. Niemann's ranked 1st.
Okay.
And then on correlating courses, Sungjae Im is ranked 48th in DK points. Niemann ranks 2nd.
All right, so I will not fight with you anymore, especially because after what Brooks did to his hair. By the way, Brooks's backyard. Florida guy, everything like that, and he does tend to play well just in that state in general. But when PGAtour.com has an article about his shoes, and we already know what he did with his hair, and he's coming off a missed cut, I'll let homeboy breathe a little bit before I start pumping him up again. I did tell you pre-show that I'm going to be riding the Brooks train until it delivers.
But you don't have to follow those words until next week when you're actually playing. So.
I was about to say I'm going to catch next week's train, and I'm just going to make sure that this week's train stays on the tracks. Because we got the 10,000 and the 9th. I like Joaquin Niemann. I'm excited to see what Louis Oosthuizen does this year because I have a soft spot for Louis. I think it'd be nice to see him get a major.
Yeah, I've always liked the guy too. Yeah.
Yeah, if he doesn't, it's not going to end I'm not losing sleep over it.
Yeah.
The only one is Daniel Berger, but I feel like he's going to be chalky. I think a lot of people are going to like him again. He fits the Florida boy narrative. I think he's an FSU guy. I don't know if he's originally from Florida or not, but he's an FSU guy. And I am being stereotyping right now. Again, I'm the resident Southerner / Southeastern kid, so we can spot our own. But I actually would be shocked if he won this week. This just kind of smells and feels like a burger, no pun intended.
With some cheese or not?
Listen, I'm always cheesy. I have a PhD in cheese. So okay.
What's interesting about the 10K plus range is that, and I'm really curious to see how the ownership does shake out for the rest of the field, because the only 2 guys who are projected right now under 15% ownership in that range is Brooks and Niemann. Other than that, the rest of the guys are projected out to be chalky right now, around 18, 20%. Like that's for that price. I can't, I don't think any of them are enough of a lock at that ownership and at that price to say that you got to eat that chalk. I think there's plenty of value in this court, in this field, that because that top range is so looking to be so chalky that you're going to not only get price value in other areas of this field, you're also going to get ownership value where you might typically not, you might be able to get a low 8K range that is
let's go down there.
13%, but you might be able to get them at under 10 this week because of that.
Well, then who would that look like to you, Mister? Is it Leduc? I can't believe
Leduc. You nailed it.
I did.
Yeah,
I told you, I'm
French Canadian.
I'm born again New England. I married a Mainer who has French ties to the whole thing. But speaking of, let's go to that 8,000 range. Who is valuable down here? I mean, this is one of those places where Patrick Reed, he missed the cut. Are we going to always play Patrick? Shout out, our boy over at Eckert Realty. No, it's not. Is it Chi Realty?
I'm not even. I kept messing it up last week. I'm not even. It's at Eckert Real Chi.
Eckert Real Chi. That's right.
Yeah.
Eckert Real Chi. Shout out. But I mean.
No, I'm not playing Patrick Reed this week.
No, we're not playing Patrick Reed. Mito Pereira. He seems to be on. He's the breakthrough one that I see that name high up. Everybody's like, well, I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised when he breaks through. But
we played him at the Phoenix and missed him, and then we didn't play him at the Genesis, and he came through. That's golf.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that's one of those things. You're flipping a coin. And, oh my God, heads twice. It's gonna be heads again. No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
But Cameron Young riding that high from last week.
Yeah, talk about a jump in salary. Like fantastic, good for him.
What was he last week?
He was in this like 6,400 or something like that last week. Like he was in the mid to like
that's right
6,000s, and now he's up here at 8,600. Just because he finished second last week, it's fantastic for him.
Yeah, I'd roll the dice there, but I also like a name that's sitting right on top of him, Brian Harman. When you talk about ball striking and how that's going to be a premium this week,
Yep.
Because it's going to be windy. It's always a little bit windy down in South Florida, right there on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be warm, so those greens are going to be firm, fast. Fairways going to be firm and fast.
Yeah, no, mind that he's quietly having a decent like little year so far. You know, he's making cuts. He's made 4 out of his last 6 cuts. Well, he's made the cut in his last 4 tournaments. I'm sorry, he didn't play the Farmers and the Genesis, but he's got 2 top 20s in there, including a third at the MX. So that's not a bad shot right there. And I think when I just checked, he was coming in around 10% ownership. So at 8,700, I don't mind that at all. That's a good call on Brian Harman.
It's just whenever ball striking jumps out, he's like the left-handed Morikawa, although Morikawa is younger than him. That's neither here nor there. You said value before we went live, and I said, no. Don't tell me because I don't know anything about this. Save it for the audience. Who were you talking about being valuable down there in the 8K range? What kind of value were you looking? Because I see one, but I'm not sure I actually know what I'm talking about. So it's one of those things. I want to hear your answer first.
I want to double check the ownership. Oh. Wow, Vegas is actually a higher ownership than I expected.
He's a name that I always like seeing. I think there's a marketability to the name too, and I think it's a difference if somebody says Jonathan Vegas versus Johnny Vegas.
Yeah. So this is what we talked about last. So last week, one of the points that Chad brought up was that when we're looking at ownership on the Fantasy National site, it's the people who use Fantasy National are typically, sharp players who do their research similar to the way the rest of us who consider ourselves, quote unquote experts do our research. So a lot of times, like for instance, like here, like Johnny Vegas and Aaron Wise, who, this mid to lower 8,000 range, who rate out well for this course, and they both have a good history with this course as far as making the cut and from time to time making runs at the leaderboard. To other, just average players, they might not stand out because Jonathan Vegas is a name that's been around for a while and hasn't really flashed to anybody. So, he doesn't have necessarily a big name. And Aaron Wise, no one really knows anything about Aaron Wise if you're just an average DFS player. But
I was about to say he's not a name that's on the tip of a lot of tongues.
No. So you would think that you might be able to get them at, decent ownership under 10%, because especially when you got someone like Cameron Young, who just flashed last week that people are going to love. You got Gary Woodland right there, just a little bit behind him. And then, like you said, Patrick Reed, just a little bit more. Like there's some names there that people are going to flock to instead and probably look right over. But, Fantasy National, all the sharps are, playing both of these guys at above around 13, 14% ownership right now. So on one hand, it tells us that, if we like them, we might not be in the wrong here because it seems like every other expert also likes them. But is the ownership going to be worth it there? I think in the 8K range, considering that there's only what makes the 8K range kind of hard is that there's only 10 guys in the 8K range this week. And so if a lot of guys that we've already saw that the top tier is going to be a chalky range this week. So it kind of makes sense that this 8K range is also going to be a bit chalky, because if I'm playing those top guys, I'm skipping the 9K range. I'm going right down to the 8K range with my second guy to see how I can balance out my salary. So it makes sense that this is the area that is also going to be chalky. But if I'm playing value in the 9K range, I can afford a Jonathan Vegas or an Aaron Wise to be like my highest owned player if they're going to get me the cut.
You're saying you're saying like if you're anchoring in the 9, then that allows you to get both Vegas and Wise, and then jump down lower to try to balance your lineup.
I'm not sure I would play both Vegas and Wise.
You're saying either or.
There might be a
got
couple, but yeah, it'd be either or. But there might be one or two lineups where I'm playing them both because I'm playing so many. But but I just think that if you're, like I said, if I'm going to start in the 9K range, you can squeeze them in and still get a good amount of play in the 7K range as well.
There's right down at the bottom of the 8K range is a name that I just like saying. Again, it's one of those marketability things that jumps out at you. But with the word ball strikers used a lot with Christian Gesundheit. I'll learn how to say it. That's super. Real quick aside, I used to teach middle school to a lot of international kids, and I just became very comfortable with butchering names. And I would say to them very honestly, listen, I'm going to get it wrong the first couple of times. Just be patient with me. Know that I don't mean any disrespect, and I'm trying. And the kids were great. They were middle school students, which people would be like, oh my God, monsters. No, they were wonderful. But Christian Bezuidenhout, but I mean, just at 8,000 flat is very attractive because he's hot and cold. He can be a hothead sometimes, but I just think you're going to get leverage there. And I think he's going to fly under the radar until people see him at 8,000. And then what's his projected ownership? Again, Fantasy National, holler boy.
Almost 15%.
So there you go. So you're going to fade him once you have that piece of information. And then if that's where my eyes are, I don't know, Russell Knox. I like Russell Knox.
I'm fading him with 4 cuts in the last 5 years here. And the only time he didn't get cut, he finished 51st. He has not had a good history in this course for the last 5 years.
What's he doing right now? The only reason, I'm just thinking in terms of conditions, the windiness. I like your picks, by the way. The Jonathan Vegas. You're right about Aaron Weiss. I don't know if I could jump on that just because he could walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Aaron Weiss," and I'd be like, "I don't know," and I'm that shallow right now. I'm too new to the game. And that's no disrespect to him. He's a freaking PGA Tour pro.
Russell Knox. Somehow miraculously, you want to talk about consistency? He's played in the last 3 tournaments: the Genesis, the Phoenix, and Pebble Beach. He's finished exactly but he's finished exactly 33rd in all 3 of those tournaments.
And he's top 10, and he's top 10 strokes gained approach. He's actually jumped up to 8, and that's why
he's actually top 10 in approach, ball striking, par 3s, and greens and regulation, and not even top 10. He's top 5 in all of those.
So let's talk about what were you said earlier, you alluded to, we're down here in the 8K range. Thanks for joining Divots and Pivots. We're down here in the 8K range. And I'm just curious. You said earlier you had these 5 things, and par 3 scoring was one of them. You just named What are your 5 topics? And let's circle back to why you were wrong about Russell Knox.
So I always include DraftKings points because that's what it's a great barometer. Yeah, it's what we're trying to get. So DraftKings points is always he ranks 22nd in DraftKings points in the field this week, and that's based off. So these ones right here are based off of the entire season. He's ranked 2nd in strokes gained approach in the field, 2nd in ball striking, 5th in par 3 stroke gained, and then 1st in greens and regulation when it comes to the season as a whole so far. Now when we're talking about correlating courses though. So the hang up for me, he's in great form right now. He's got, like I said, 33rd finish in the last 3 tournaments. He does have a 7th at the Sony Open as well.
He's going to be wildly owned.
No, I think when I already forget because I just checked, he was like 12% ownership right now. So not too bad.
For 8,100 for the stats that you're rolling out there.
Considering the rest of the 8,000 range seems to be floating around 14, 15% ownership. Look, there's value here from an ownership standpoint and potential point scoring standpoint. What holds me up is the correlating courses. So, and do I still have it up on which? So I
was about to ask, do you remember or do you have them up?
Yeah. So the correlating courses I used was obviously PGA National because that's where we're at. I have the Sea Island Resort, Sedgefield Country Club, TPC Southwind, and Wale. So those are the courses that I found have similar makeup, play style required,
DNA,
green, DNA greens and all that, firmness. So on those courses, he's 75th in DraftKings points. He's still 5th in approach, 14th in ball striking, but he's 93rd in par threes and 15th in greens and regulation. So he's a bit more all over the map on similar courses to PGA National. And when you pair that with his tournament history here over the last 5 years, where he hasn't made the cut 4 out of 5 years, and his strokes gained at this tournament over the last 5 years is -6. There's pause for concern there. But that's where you've got to find the balance. How much do you put, is current form, does that trump all? And in some cases it does. I didn't have the time, unfortunately, to do a super deep dive to where I could go back to the past 5 years.
Look who you're talking to.
And see how he was doing leading up to that tournament. That would be very useful information right now, so I apologize for not having that.
Amateur hour around here, Andrew.
But if you can, if you can hit us with a, I'm sure you have a story on Russell Knox.
I actually don't. I know the thing is the funny. Well, because also I see that name and it takes me 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I think he kind of looks like Russell Henry, Harris English, Hudson Swafford, that entire DNA chain of pro golfers that all look like they could be cousins. But no, that's why I wanted to dig a little or pull a little bit as the Russell Knox thread, was because you uncover the serious mystery of golf, which is there's all these other outside, like the objective on paper, Russell Knox slam dunk, 8,100 is even at 13%, considering he's that low, it frees you up to go after somebody else up top that you might not have, to maybe get that 10, 11K if you're really big on Brooksy this week, or you want a burger. Point being, it is gambling. I mean, I think we always forget about this. At the end of the day, there's no, if it was that simple, if you could just run an equation, then there would be departments at MIT and other places that are solely focused on this. Don't get me wrong. There's computer science majors and econ majors all out there trying to figure out a life in DFS and how to game the system. And they do a good job. And then us folks with the softer side of knowledge hope to take what they glean and make something out of it. So going to something like Russell Knox, where if I had more time, which with a toddler and, dedicating my life to you now, I'd like to, I'd go scroll Russell Knox's social media. I would try to find out what's going on in his life, because his current form is so hot, or let me rephrase that. It seems to match up well to the point of, who cares? Because if there is something bad going on, that one tiny mini bad memory is then all of a sudden what goes, shit, I've never made the cut here. Or the last 5 years I do this, that, or the other. If everything else in the world around you is a good headspace, you can try to ride that positive wave of, I've got X amount of top 10s coming into this. And I don't know if pro guys, I doubt they're statting out on themselves the way we are. They actually probably pay people.
I mean, they do keep a lot of notes, but
they keep a ton of notes. And I wouldn't be shocked. Some of them probably are. Some of them are probably more Brooksy, where it's like ball, hit, go, me, Tarzan, you, Jane. But Russell Knox, greens and regulation right now, 3rd. Driving accuracy percentage, 21st. Driving distance is way down there, but at the same time, if you're putting it in the fairway and you're hitting the green around here, you're gonna make some putts. So I don't know.
So here's what I just found doing a quick look at the past years of his handful of tournaments leading up to the Honda Classic.
Holler.
So the years that he missed the cut here, so 21, 20, and then 18, 17, he was in similarly bad form leading into the Honda Classic. The 1 year, 2019, that he made the cut but finished 51st, he was in very similar kind of average finishing position as he is now for his form. So is there anything? There's not really much showing me that his current form is really going to jettison him into that top 20 range where we want him to be. It's possible that at this course, at this tournament, when he's in good form, his ceiling is, I don't know, 40.
His ceiling might be that. I don't know. I think if in my dummy lineup this week, I think I'd take a flyer on him. Although I still am in love with Brian Harman. Speaking of value, 7K. I mean, that's Value City.
Yep.
And please God, if there's some copyright for Value City out there, don't at me. I'm already nervous with like Anheuser-Busch. This bud's for you. I really do think it's clever. The 4 golf.
Yeah,
guy.
you change it up. It's fine, right?
It's kosher. But coming down here in the 7K range, it's like a playground. You really could. You could spend. I think you could. We should have an entire spin-off podcast called just the 7K show, because all you do is you look at these big fields and
what,
it
just
is a
play all
crap.
7K range and leave like $13,000 on the table.
No, I was actually thinking of just dissecting the 7K range and trying to find out, because you're going to have to play some 7K guys. Am I right? Like don't listen.
No matter how you do it, whether it's stars and scrubs, whether it's balanced, you're always going to have at least one guy in the 7K range.
So
it's where the money is made, because the 7K range are guys that can still, flash through for a win or top 5. So this is like the 7K range, I would say, is easily where tournaments are won and lost.
From
a defense standpoint.
Well, so which begs the question, who do you like?
So I like the lower 7K range more than anything, but I do want to check real fast the ownership on one guy.
Doc Redman.
So this is what happened. So last week, not Doc Redman. No. So I was scared to say this guy is this is going to sound just convenient for me, but I was too scared to say this guy's name on our podcast last week. Even though with what I was looking at in my model, I said, I think he's going to do good, but there's not enough for me to really go out and die on that stand for him. And then he comes through and he finishes top 10, and that was Mr. CT Pan. But you can understand why that's a name where I'm like, I don't really want to tell the masses to play him, because he's not usually there. But then he comes out and he finishes top 10 last week, and this is one of those tournaments where he's either gonna make the miss the cut or finish top 20 for you. He finished third here last week. He shapes up well on these correlating courses, and he's 7,700, coming off a 9th place finish last week.
I don't know. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is it another CT Pan week? Which seems crazy to say.
was last week just a flash in the pan?
Or exactly.
We knew that was coming.
Which with CT Pan, typically more like last week was a flash in the pan.
That's I want to beat that around a lot. No, it's actually sorry. I'm laughing that Mito Pereira is 14th in strokes gained approach, and we still haven't mentioned his name yet today. Where is he? Is he down in the 7K range?
No, he's at 8,900.
And that's why we didn't mention him.
Yeah, he's climbed in the salary because he's just become like the, who was it last year that why am I blanking on his name? The guy that came over from Korn Ferry last year and was crushing it for a while.
Zalatoris?
Yes, he's this year's Will Zalatoris, it seems.
That's fair. Zalatoris, though, ironically enough, he never even had status on the PGA Tour. Those were all like sponsorship exemptions. He played 8. He wasn't even on the PGA Tour, and he was PGA Tour Rookie of the Year. I think it's only happened like 3 times or something like that. It's funny you mentioned him. He's top ranked strokes gained approach right now. But the 7K range should be nicknamed the dark horse. Because that's what it is. It's basically, you're trying to find that dark horse. And I am the founder and CEO of the Hudson Swafford fan club.
I know you are.
And I was happy to see him sign with PXG. Shout out Parsons. But down in the 7K range, he's already won this year. So yeah, I am biased. I know I don't know the guy. We went to school way, way back in the day. Go Dogs. But he's top 16 strokes gained approach. He's ranked 16 right now. He has a win under his belt. Tell me why I should or should not follow that loyalty in the 7K range at 7,100. And like you said, you're splicing hairs down here with 38 guys, and you only pick 1 or 2. I always try to find a reason to put him in my lineup if I can. What do you see if I bring that name up?
So what I see is that he's stat wise, he's having a pretty good year this year. He's got the win, obviously. But other than that, he's got a 48th and a 60th and a cut so far this year. Mm-hmm. He is, like you keep saying, he is a Florida kid. He's got that track record of being comfortable in Florida. It hasn't necessarily shown up here at the Honda, missing the cut last year, and he's never finished better than 21st. And before that 21st finish, the two previous years, he was 73rd and 64th. Now, you could probably chalk that up to him being, those are pretty young years on the tour for him. So, feeling out the tour, feeling out the competition level, you can probably chalk that up to that. I'd be all right with that. But if I was going to be playing him, it would be strictly based off of a home field advantage and a key stats on the year, good form standpoint. But he's like a 50-50 for me.
Good.
But
I'll take the 50 of playing him. You take the 50 of not, and then I want to hear what you got down in the 7K range.
And Swafford's coming in at 9% ownership, which makes it more likely that I'm going to throw him in a lineup or two just because of the hometown status there. But a couple guys that I like that are coming in higher on than I would like them to be, above 12-13% would be Chris Kirk and Lucas Glover. I think they have a decent history here, both of them. Lucas Glover has only missed the cut once in the last 5 years, and every other time he's finished 21st or better. So this is definitely a Lucas Glover tournament. Gaining 28 strokes on the field at this tournament over the last 5 years. So this is 28 strokes on the field in this tournament in the last 5 years, Lucas Glover. And that's with a miscut in there in 2020. So this is his course. He plays well in these types of courses. So this is what I like when I'm looking for a guy, especially down in this range, when the key stats for the season also are consistent with where he ranks for key stats on correlating courses. Like, those are the guys for me that are like a no-brainer play for me, like a core player for me, because that means everything's just lining up for this week. And current form and history form, like, those are the guys that I want to play. So I'm probably going to have more Lucas Glover than Christian Kirk. But Lucas Glover, like I said, when I checked, was coming in at and actually that's not bad. He's coming in at 11% ownership. So I'm probably going to be smashing Lucas Glover this week as a core player. If I got to get a button, so when we mention someone that I want in my core, we can ring a bell or something. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna get that going. But then a couple other, I would like your view on Sam Ryder at 7,200. He's one of those guys that could surprise with like a top 15. He finished 8th here last year and 53rd the year before that, and those are the only 2 years he's played. But he's got, he's made the cut 4 out of his last 5 tournaments so far this year. He's got good stats on these types of courses, even though his stats aren't great on the season as a whole. But even with that, he's ranked 13th in the field in DK points and 10th in the field on par 3s. This feels like the type of course and setup where Sam Ryder could sneak through, like I said, for a top 15, top 20 finish. And at 7,200 and where is he there? 6% ownership. That could be juicy.
I say you put it in there. He just had that ace at the Waste Management that everybody was. Yep. All right, quick pause. Yes, on Sam Ryder for the reasons that you said. I also thinking of somebody else. But he had that ace at the Waste Management, and everybody was talking about, oh my God, the beer, this is terrible for the game, or blah, 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 blah. The thing about the Waste Management, especially that hole and that experience, is it's once a year. If you did try to do that at every tournament, if you tried to create one stadium, then all of a sudden it's not. The fact that it works, and by the way, if maybe there's that unofficial, when somebody makes an ace, which happens 1 out of every X thousand million swings, they go nuts. They chuck the beer. I think it'd be very good for this tournament to come out and say, we appreciate the exuberance. That's what we're here for, that kind of passion. We do hope that people reserve that level of, expression for those moments, that kind of wink, wink, nod, nod of, no, we don't want you throwing trash on our golf course ever. But we also fully understand that in that moment, in that crowd, in that environment, that's what it looks like. And you go back to the Tiger ace from 1997. His first Waste Management, he holes out, a little 9-iron. It was before they had the structures around there. And as he's marching up to the hole, that's what you see behind him, is just beers flying and water bottles. And he talks about it in a later interview. He says, I could smell the beer. He's like, I turned around and looked back, and it was like a wedding, where they throw the rice or the bird seed. We were just walking through, and he said it was what a cool moment it was. And that was the moment that that the PGA Tour and everybody was like, oh my God, we got to take this. Right. So to anybody who's out there going, oh, the trash.
You get the rest of the year to hold the purest golf.
Right. Here's your violin. It's playing. Clutch your pearls somewhere else, because I do agree that would not be a good identity or brand for golf overall.
No, not overall. But that's the type of tournament that's going to specifically get in, more people. So that we're going to use, because we're starting to run out of time here. We'll get to a couple other value plays, but I want to quickly jump into this, and this is a good segue. This is the type of tournament that is going to set the PGA Tour apart from any other wannabe league, such as this Saudi league that's trying to force its way in by just paying guys a lot of money. But that type of tournament is a tournament where the players feel connected to the fans feel part of the game. And it's like that hole is, just that epitomizes for me what golf is as a whole, even if it's not always that rowdy, but just that camaraderie, that excitement, that pure respect and joy when somebody else, even if you're playing against them, achieves something, because there's a respect for how hard it is. And to just have a spot where you can let out that joy and excitement as a fan and as a player. The players love it. They take full advantage. They put on jerseys. They joke around out there. Like, that's great for the game of golf. Golf does not need to be a boring, purist style sport. Like, we can have some fun every now and then. Like you said, as long as it's not the entire thing, because then that does change the makeup of what golf is. But that, I think, is something that separates it from all these other leagues that have tried to come on. And I want to get your take on all this jazz that's going on with Phil and the Saudi. Is it just called the Saudi League, or or is that just what everyone's calling it? Like,
so we'll start from the top, which is, let's be clear. None of us know anything. I mean, quite frankly, even whatever tour player it was, maybe it was Westwood or Oosthuizen, one of them said, I've signed a non-disclosure agreement. I can't say anything. I'm not saying that person's lying to us, but how do we know they're not? How do we know that he wasn't saying that just so he doesn't have to talk about it? And quite frankly, why are we talking about it? My reaction to it,
around a lot of money. That's why.
But you know what? I think what the guys did this week in some of their comments, like Rory saying it's dead. He goes, and I love what he said, where he goes, I'm glad we got here. We got a few minutes, and yes, I say hit Hudson's hard in the 7K. I got a good feeling about my boy this week. 6K, I'm sure you're gonna have to put some in there. David Lipsky was a name I heard somebody throw out last week, and I got burnt on that. So avoid David Lipsky. He also sounds like
my big 6,200 guy. We're not going to talk because I want to talk on the subject, but Jason Duffner hasn't.
Duff Daddy.
6,200 hasn't missed a cut here in 5 years. Not in the greatest form right now, but good enough to where he should make the cut again. 6,200 is a place you can go for Jason Duffner.
And if there's ever a brand to get in bed with, and you're a guy like Duffner, Belly Up Sports. Some of those. I think Pat Perez might like us. Anyways, and that's not a knock at him. If I stood up, you'd see my belly. So, anyways, but this sporting league, Rory put it to bed, and I think there's a lot to unpack here. Cliche number one of the media, but we're gonna start with. I agree with Rory that it's dead in the water now. He made the good point of tell me who's going. You've already heard from the top 10 guys who have said this is where the best players are. This is where I'm staying. Yep. And to your point about money, those guys were also saying, here's where I was about to say the Saudis got it wrong, but I don't want to be struck down or anything. But here's where I think whoever is pulling the strings back there got it wrong, which is you came after people with money.
Yeah.
And that's what they were saying. Like, there's nothing over there. We don't want to go create your masters for you. We have what we have. So you're offering us the wrong thing. If they want to get a new league, you really want some competition, go troll these Monday qualifiers. I'm not saying to do it because, by the way, personally, I think this is a perfect time at 10:49 a.m. on Wednesday, February 23rd, that I publicly here state and announce my allegiance and fealty to the PGA Tour. I will not be jumping over to the Saudi League. I have decided that this is the place where I grew up. My first memory of life is sitting on the edge of my dad's bed at the 86 when watching the 86 Masters, and Jack's Putter goes up on 17. Y'all love that shot, don't you? God, I got to get outside. So I'm staying here in the PGA Tour. Competition's not built by poaching the top talent. Competition is built by creating something that top talent wants to go after. And Rory said it, money's not going to do more. I mean, guys like you and I are like, of course we could, everybody at our level of the economics, I'm assuming, would say, sure, I would do this for $20 million. Okay. What if you had 20 million in the bank and you were happy sitting in your life, but somebody said, I'll give you what you already have if you uproot your life.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
So that's number one. I don't disparage anybody for taking an approach of let's create some competition here. Hell, Augusta National did it when they introduced the women's amateur a couple of years ago. You didn't see the USGA going, wait a minute, the amateur game is ours. They thought that's dope. Another opportunity for the women's game to grow. So I would say, Phil, if you're listening, if you want to create that,
first of all, thank you if you are.
Yeah, first of all, thank you. Shout out Lefty. We're not gonna. I'm sure he's listening to, but and it's not really Phil. Whoever wants to create that competition, be a little smarter about it. Go out to the Monday qualifiers. Find these people who, first of all, you're going to save some money because they're not going to go for 50 million. You don't have to offer up 50 million. They might do it for $1 million. Some of these pro players will do that opportunity, and it's a lower level investment. I get it. They want to make a splash, and they want this, they want that. The boulders are staying put. The boulders are not going to jump ship. So you're going to have to find another way to make a splash. So it's not going to happen. Phil, I genuinely think this is one of those pearl clutching moments. And I go back to the Monday qualifying stories where there's like 16 guys in a playoff for one spot. Or how about the women's game where they don't even have Monday qualifiers at the level that they do? And there's so many bigger things going on that all weekend and this morning and the podcast, and I'm glad we buried it until now. And I'm not trying to be a holier than thou because obviously I read it, but my opinion on it or my take on it is there are so many other stories in our game, in the tour itself to look at and to explore. And I don't think Phil, by the way, Phil's a businessman. He's making apologies and he's choosing his words wisely. I was a little shocked to see KPMG jump, but then again, I don't work at KPMG. So it's one of those things. I don't know where their head's at. I don't know what those conversations were. I just think the depth on that is I don't give a shit. Like I love Phil. I think after 50 some odd years, he can shoot from the hip if he wants to. If he's got beef with Alan Shipnuck or whoever was Alan Shipnuck, I think it was the interview. If he's got beef with him, take it up. And that's all fine. I'm done with any kind of attention to it because there's just so much more going on, as the players pointed out. This is what we have. This is what we've dreamt our entire life for. And this is what we're going to work. JT, Rory, the public comments they made supporting and or, kind of criticizing Phil. It's one of those things where, okay, I don't have an opinion on that. Those are their colleagues. Those are their coworkers. And if they want to put it out there, that's their venue. They're in a different world than we are, Yeah. Sure, I could go on Twitter and bitch about my boss. But A, she's not on Twitter, and B, I have a really great boss. I call her my future former boss, but yeah, I'm very happy that you, when we got on, you were like, oh, I do want to find out. Do you know anything's going on with this Saudi league? I know everything that you can Google. And by the way, that's all anybody knows. I mean, I think guys like Brandel Chambly, who love him or hate him, man's got his finger on the pulse. When they're saying we don't know what's going on, and you've got the best players in the world saying we're not going anywhere, I do think it's interesting that that people were citing different reasons. Now, I don't think it's fair for anybody to take their own personal political stances on this around Saudi Arabia and their kingdom of this and what they've done with women's or this, those are definitely some incredibly serious topics and issues that are personal to a lot of people. But this is a golf podcast about sports betting. So I want to focus much more on the game side of it, which was about, trying to create another opportunity. It'll happen. They'll get there. But as far as everybody being in a tizzy over, who's going, who's staying, it's the freaking Honda this week. We're at Jack's place. We're at the Bear Trap. Yeah, this is a big one. Like, it's not a major or anything, but this is like one of those second tier tournaments of the year. Yeah. So anybody looking to take their own personal thing and say, look, all these players don't want to go to Saudi Arabia because of the oil or because of their human rights, go look at their statements. I'm not saying that's not why they're going or it didn't factor in, but almost all of them were saying, listen, it's not, and they weren't playing footsie. I don't want it to come across like that where,
No,
where
they're
it's like,
handling it very professionally.
exactly. And objectively, they're saying we don't need to get into that side of it because there are these reasons we're not going. The best players in the world are over here. Money's not going to change the game of golf for me. Ergo, I've always grown up with this. Ergo, I'm staying here.
Yeah.
I don't think we want to get into where do you stand on, because quite frankly,
Nope.
Colin Morikawa is a pro golfer. And I'm not going to, and I don't think it's very nice to tell LeBron to shut up and dribble. But I think, I think whoever said that years ago, the point they were trying to make is I'm not looking at Colin Morikawa for his political ideology or even I want to see LeBron dunk on somebody's face. He can have every right to whatever he wants to say, but I want to see him dunk on somebody or hit a fade or a no look pass. And that's just me. Right. Yep. So in the game of golf, I think it's important to focus on the game itself and not get caught up in what, pardon my language, who gives a fuck what Phil tweeted about some league that may or may not happen. I'm way more interested to know if Harry Higgs at 6,700 is attractive enough for anybody to take a flyer on. Thanks for that. That was a little pedestal moment I didn't expect, that it had been floating around my dome all morning. Because if I had to turn on another podcast or see another article, and anybody, Phil's controversial takes, to who? That's stop it. Just stop it. Go away.
Happy to give you the stand. Happy to give you the moment. Right. And to answer your questions, I don't mind.
Back to you in the studio. Back to you in the studio. Right? Did he get fined? I think it might have been a meme.
I didn't hear anything about him getting fined, so I don't know.
We're on live TV, so why don't we look this up and just
go live TV with 4 minutes, so type fast.
Oh,
and while he looks that up, if you liked the intro song coming in, I want to give another shout out to the Hunting Accidents. You can find them at huntingaccidents.bandcamp.com. Let me double check. It's bandcamp.com. Yes. So if you liked that little instrumental, that they're making new music.
I do. I was going to ask you that.
They're coming up with new stuff. We might, as they come out with some new stuff, we might switch it up and see. But I'm in close contact with them, so. Make sure to check them out, see what they got. They got some fun stuff.
So Higgs did not get fined. I saw on golfchannel.com that he may get fined. So I think somebody was trying to just point it out there. It's kind of like
we're never going to hear about it again.
Yeah, it's kind of like I may qualify for the Mass Open later this year. I'm going to play in a qualifier, but that's going to be something you'll look forward to later this year. You'll get to take my amateur golf journey with me. I got 5 qualifiers lined up. Also, if you're not hanging out with us here,
we'll do some breakdowns of your scorecard.
We're gonna do some course previews. I'm gonna need your help. We're gonna crowdsource this thing. We're gonna get Boudreaux into one of these tournaments.
Are they all local tournaments, like local courses?
4 of them through the Mass Golf Association, and then I think I'm gonna toss my hat in the ring for the USGA mid amateur this year. There's gonna be a couple qualifiers nearby. Nice. So why not go get the heart rate elevated, get the sweaty palms, get that feeling again.
Yeah, I'll probably know a few of the courses that you might be on, so we'll see.
And you and I'll actually have to get together soon. Now that don't censor us. Once the weather, I was gonna say, now that COVID's kind of
which you mentioned earlier, you don't hate the weather yet, and you don't know when you will. I know exactly when you will. You will hate the weather here when it's April 20th and we get a foot of snow.
That's exactly when I'll hate it.
That is when you'll go, no. When I was in Florida, it was already 80 degrees.
That's when I'm going to book. That's when my 40th birthday is this year, and I'm actually booking a resort trip to a golf resort. That's actually when we might go, is in April, when it's that perfect timing. And if I'm not going to be there, then I'll be over at stickandhack.com writing the early tee. I'll be on Twitter at ThisBudsForYou. I'll be talking to Andrew. I'll be talking to Andrew Leduc and thanking the people at Belly Up Sports for this phenomenal opportunity to come on here and talk golf with you all. Fantasy National, if you don't know about them, now you know. Holler at them. Fantasy National, holler at your boy. Trust me, I'll probably ping you again now to be like, hey, it's me. But Andrew, back to you in the studio.
And now you can see why Bud Copeland is the new co-host here, because without even saying anything, he's watching the time and he gets all the promo shouts in while he can. You gotta love the awareness, the podcast etiquette awareness. Gotta love that. But he's right. We are coming to the end of our time. We just got about a minute left here. So thank you for joining us here on TikiLive.com, on the @TV Belly Up Sports Twitter channel, and on the Tiki Live channel for Belly Up Sports. If you're watching us on the Belly Up Podcast Twitter right now, thank you for joining. If you're watching on the Divots and Pivots Twitter, once again, thank you for joining. We'll be here every week, Wednesday, 10 o'clock. Next week we'll be continuing on. We may or may not have a big guest for that one. I'm still trying to make that work for y'all. So stay tuned.
So I'm gonna pop my cherry next week on
Big
DFS.
surprise. And then we got that fun. We're gonna jump in. We're gonna bring in some tier style play. We're gonna bring in some regular lineup salary play. So we're gonna get butt into the game here. But thank you again for once again for joining us, Belly Up Sports. Thank you for providing us this platform. We love you. We'll see you next week. Have a great day and good luck at the Honda.